You have a big mission. I have a big mission. How do we lead through a big mission? Big mission is there's going to be ups and downs. We all know it. We have all lived it, and there is more to come. And that we know, it's just part of the journey of entrepreneurs. So this week I called up Jacqueline Ashley, Dr. Jacqueline Ashley, to help us understand what do we need to do to lead a big vision, to make our dreams come true, to make the difference in the world the way that we want to do. Let's go to my interview. Jacqueline, thank you so much for accepting my invitation today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here today.
Thank you. Jacqueline, we're going to talk about a topic today that's for me is really important because I see it with my coaching client. But before we go into today's topic, could you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. So I am an executive leadership coach. My company is called worklifehealth.design. I specialize in helping executives, leaders, people in various levels of an organization with leadership development, such as inclusive leadership, emotional intelligence, work-life harmony, which includes well-being and resilience, and change management. So those are some niche areas of mine.
They're niche, and at the same time, they're profound areas. And so I've connected with you following an article that you wrote, and we had a beautiful conversation on how do we lead a big mission. So the entrepreneurs that are watching us, they carry a big mission. They want to make a difference in the life of their clients, in the life of their clients' families, in the clients' businesses. They do want to make a mission. They do want to make a difference. So they're very mission-driven entrepreneurs, which is beautiful in itself. But how do we, as a leader, carry that?
Well, as a leader, it's really important to, look at how you're leading your own life. I have something that I say all the time: leadership begins with how you lead your life. It really starts there. And when people talk about leadership, there are a lot of things that can be done as a leader, but really, if you don't go to the source yourself and look within and take care of those things, right? Get your own life right first, then it's a lot harder to do a lot of other things. So an example would be something very simple like sleep, right? So if you're leading a big mission, whether you're in a small or a large organization, it's a lot of pressure, right? There's a lot of stress involved when you're leading any kind of big mission. And how do you manage stress if you're not sleeping well? So these are some just fundamentals. And a lot of times I hear people saying, oh, I don't get enough sleep because I don't have time. Well, the thing is this: it's going to add up, and it's going to have an effect on your decision making. And so, how do you lead that big mission? Well, basics. Start with self-care. Start with yourself. Look at how you're leading your life, and see how that has an effect on others. And if you want to make that impact in the world, you've got to first be that role model for others to follow.
Oh, so true. And I like that yes, we often think of, if I do a little bit more, if I work a little bit more, if I need to be there for my clients, I need to be there for my team. But we tend to put everyone in first, and then whatever's left is us. So other than the lack of sleep, because I do believe that sleep is one of the fundamental pillars to be able to have the yes, physical energy, but mental energy. I would be curious with your clients, what other area do we forget in the self-care area?
Well, another area that we forget is to show compassion to ourselves.
Hmm.
When you're leading a big mission, you're doing a lot of hard stuff. You're making a lot of hard decisions. You're making a lot of tough calls. And sometimes we are very self-critical. We judge ourselves way too much. And sometimes that can really bring you down when you do that. And realizing that that's actually not helpful. A lot of times people, a myth about being compassionate to yourself, a lot of people think that that means like, oh, if I'm compassionate to myself, I'm just going to be soft on myself. And, I need to motivate myself and I can't be soft on myself. But in reality, when you are so hard on yourself, all you end up doing is kind of bringing yourself down. And it affects you psychologically, affects you mentally. And when you're self-compassionate, what happens instead is you're allowing yourself that grace to realize like, hey, this is hard. And to also look at, hey, if anyone else was in my situation, they'd be going through the same experience. It's not just me. And then giving yourself some kindness and saying, you know what, I might be having a hard time now, but I will figure this out and I will get through this. And it's believing in yourself, and it helps you. Self-compassion actually helps you recover much more quickly from any, setbacks you might experience in whatever you're doing leading this big mission.
I like that. And I find it's so true that compassion and self-compassion is seen as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we, and I see this a lot with entrepreneurs, that something doesn't go right, and then we have the inner chatter of, I'm not doing enough, this is not, it's always like not enough.
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring kindness to ourselves? First and second, I want to know, what does kindness actually do to us?
Well, here's something that I like to provide a nuanced distinction because it's important with a lot of my coaching clients, in particular women. So I like to talk about the difference between kindness and niceness. And niceness actually is a word. I looked it up. I made sure it was a word because I wasn't sure. So the difference really is people oftentimes think it's one and the same. But
Yeah.
kindness is actually consideration. It's showing consideration. Niceness is being agreeable. And so the difference is that if you are being kind to yourself, which goes along with compassion, you are showing consideration to yourself. Whereas being nice is just being agreeable. So niceness is not at all the same. And so when you're showing kindness to yourself, you're showing consideration and you're acknowledging what's hard, but also recognizing like, hey, I can do this. Being kind to yourself is realizing I might not be able to do this yet, but I will be able to. It's like I said, believing in yourself. So that's what showing kindness to yourself is knowing that I might not be capable now, but I will get there.
And so you coach a lot of executives and leaders, and are they able to bring that kindness to themselves? Or do you find that for many of them, that's a challenge and they actually don't know what to do?
It's very, very difficult for a lot of them who do come to coaching where we discovered this is a challenge for them. Because, for example, I had a client who she, went very far in her career, went up really high and advanced for most of her career, did very, very well. And she was not very self-compassionate at all, but it was causing a problem in her being able to advance any further. And the one thing that she was told consistently was that she didn't have enough confidence. And so in order to help her build that confidence, we worked on developing her self-compassion as it related to the context of leadership and what that meant for her. And so in doing that, by the time we finished our coaching engagement, which was only about 5 months, and we focused exclusively on self-compassion, she actually got a promotion into senior leadership role in her organization. And she was so happy about this. She finally had that confidence that she was lacking. And, you know, up to that point, she was doing fine, but she just plateaued.
She was doing fine.
She was doing fine, but then
Yeah.
it kept her, lack of self-compassion kept her from going any further.
Oh, I like that. So is self-compassion a component of resiliency? Because we talk about resilience a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it helps you recover from setbacks faster. It allows you to consider how you can learn from something when something has gone wrong, or a setback or a mistake. And it allows you to think about it, learn from it, and then move on with that learning in mind.
So
Instead of beating yourself up.
Oh, and we're pretty good at beating ourselves up. I didn't do this,
Yeah.
I didn't do that, I didn't do this, I didn't, and the list of not enoughness can be very interestingly long. But I like the fact that that is one a key component, because we talk about resilience a lot. Like, it's a trendy word since the last couple of years, but for me, resilience is kind of an output, is like, so what goes in the components of resilience? Self-compassion being one. And the article that I read that you wrote talked about also like self-care. And I find that for self-care, and even I'm still working on it, I often see it as, you know, going a day at the spa. That's self-care. What is
I mean, that can be self-care, but it doesn't have to be just going to the spa, right? Self-care doesn't even have to cost any money. Self-care can be doing things like taking a walk outside when the weather's nice. Self-care can be curling up with a nice book that you're going to enjoy. Self-care can be spending social time with family and friends, people that you enjoy their company. Self-care can be going out for a jog. Self-care can be meditating in a room with some nice scented candles. Self-care can be, well, let me think, what else? Self-care can be so many things.
Is self-care really moving everything that is expected from others and putting myself first?
Well, what self-care is yes, prioritizing your own well-being. But in doing that, you are actually doing it in service of not just yourself, but others as well. Because as we talk about self-care in the context of leadership, right? Yes. Something that Arianna Huffington has often said, and I don't know if these are her exact words, but she says that self-care is an investment in your leadership. She has said something to that effect. I think that's so true.
Yeah. And is it something that in the past was almost frowned upon?
Absolutely.
Because it's all about like the hustle and doing more. Because Arianna Huffington too, she's the one who wrote the book on sleep, on how the importance of sleep, where she didn't sleep until she had an accident and fell. And that's where she realized that this whole like pushing and hustling and doing more is actually not serving our missions.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because you can't show up at your best when you're constantly running on empty. You just can't.
So self-care, self-compassion, sleep. We all know the importance of sleep. What else should an entrepreneur, a leader, put into their bucket to be able to hold that big mission that they have and lead that big mission that they have?
Something that's important for everyone, not just leaders, is having a network of social support. So whether that's other professionals, coworkers, friends, family, having those social connections are so important because it helps us stay connected to the world when we have connection to others, right? When we lose that connection, we feel that disconnect, then we feel isolated and we feel alone. And leaders, more than anyone else, especially when you have risen to the top or close to the top, the higher up you go, right? When you think of it like a mountain, right? When you climb up, the higher up you go, there's fewer and fewer people up there.
Mm.
And so it's easier to be isolated. It's easier to feel like, hey, I'm here by myself. No one can understand what I'm dealing with here. And so that's one of the reasons why sometimes when leaders feel like, hey, I've got to work so hard, I've got to, work and be on all the time, 24/7, they think that that's setting a good example, but they're not seeing how it's affecting people below them because they're not as close to that as they were before. And so sometimes people kind of lose touch with that. And so it's important, in another article I had written it was important for leaders to role model self-care within their organizations, large or small, because people are looking at them and people are, seeing whatever they're doing. If they're working 24/7, if they're working weekends, if they're working late at night, people are seeing that. They're going to think, oh, I need to do that too. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And so you're going to have an entire organization where everyone's going to get burned out. And that's just not sustainable for any organization and for anyone.
So true. And yes, the leader brings it into the team models the way because that's what they think that they should do. And we trickle it down even to the clients. It's like, we're not even modeling often the mission that we have of helping our clients reach their full potential or helping our clients, realize their dreams and things like that, because we're not even embodying.
Mm-hmm.
And like the culture is not really fun. Nobody's having fun, which means the client experience is not that fun either. And it starts with us. And could I say that it's also start with us of changing some of our beliefs as leaders?
Yes.
Around
Yes.
self-care, self-compassion.
Right. Yeah. That needs to be the new badge of honor, is to role model self-care, is to care about the well-being of employees. And studies show that when you have a happier workforce, you have happier customers too.
Yes. Totally. And it all trickles down from us to
Absolutely.
maybe being aware of our beliefs, maybe being aware of our patterns, challenging them.
Yes.
And then from there, that we can actually deliver on what we really want to create.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, when you show that process, when you talk about that process with your executive, in general, what's their reaction? Do they like, yes, I'll start taking care of myself and think, is it at first like I'm on board, or at first they're like, not quite sure there?
Depends on the client. Some clients are already fully aware that they're burning out and that they know something needs to change. So they're a lot more open to it. Others, it's something that they come to coaching for leadership development to work on something a little bit different. And then they discover that this is a problem that has an effect. So like, for example, I have a lot of clients that want to work with me on building emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence involves several different competencies. It's very complicated, all the different areas that you have to touch with that. But when you talk about self-care, self-care is directly relevant to the ability to manage really good emotional intelligence. Because again, like going back to sleep, right? If you're a leader that's only sleeping 6 hours a night on average, how well are you going to be able to regulate your emotions, especially when you're in a high stress situation? You're not, because your stress is not managed. And so you're not going to be able to do that. And then your self-management is not going to be as optimal. And then that's the same with your, like any relationship management, right? When you're trying to build relationships, when you're trying to influence within your organization, and if you don't have the behaviors that people can see that inspire, right? Because if you're irritable, if you're not taking care of yourself, like say you are working 24/7 and you're not sleeping, maybe not even eating well, you haven't taken a vacation in like 5 years or something like that, right? Some people are like that.
Yes.
It's going to have an effect on your behavior and how you relate to other people and how also you see things. Your perspective is going to be different because you are not thinking as clearly, because you haven't been taking care of yourself. And so that can really impair a big mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leading a big mission. And sometimes people don't recognize these things as while they're in it. And so when I get some clients who come who want to work on like emotional intelligence, not realizing what their self-care habits are, that's one of the first things I look at is how are you taking care of yourself? We first have to look at that first to see if there's anything that can be improved so that we can actually make an impact in building your emotional intelligence to where you would like to see it in yourself.
And that influences my leadership, which influences also the team culture, which influences also the business itself.
Absolutely.
And Jacqueline, I know it's a journey that some of our people watching us are going to go, "Pooh, okay, hold on," like it's because like we were saying, self-care and is something that was not necessarily glorified. It was also like, oh yeah, if you take time for yourself, you're lazy or this. But my hope is by listening to this, entrepreneurs and leaders will understand and would gain clarity on that is the root of your leadership. Go read
Absolutely.
another leadership book. Go back to the fundamentals.
Yes, yes. And I have clients who now understand this, now see self-care, it's not just something you do when you get stressed. It's something you need to be doing before you get stressed. It's a part of your lifestyle. It's part of your maintenance, not just, oh, now I'm sick or now I'm stressed. Oh, now I need to do something to take care of myself. That's not how it should be. Granted, yes, you could still do those things, but don't wait until you're sick or you're stressed, right? Don't wait until you're feeling burned out. Prevent all of those things from happening as much as you can. And I with a lot of clients now, they are learning how important that is to their leadership by making sure to incorporate it into their days. And so I have someone who, she said she used to feel guilty about doing that, taking, half an hour to go work out during the workday. But she found out that when she did that when she came back to her desk, that she was much more focused and she was much more productive. So whatever the half hour she spent, actually she made up, in the afternoon, because it increased her level of focus and productivity by taking that break. And it also helped her to be more effective doing her work. And so she now sees it as, when I take a half an hour during the day to work out, that is part of my work. It is part of my job as a leader to be able to show up and be my best for the people that I am serving.
So it's to put energy in that I'll be able to use to coming back to lead the big mission that I have.
Absolutely.
Jacqueline, thank you. If people want to know more about you, what you do, and read some of your article, where can they find you online?
Well, my articles are on Forbes, so that they're pretty easy to find. I would think.
In
I'm
Forbes,
also
pretty
easy to
much,
find-
we just Google our name in Forbes and the articles come out.
Yeah. I'm also easy to find on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at that's Dr. Ashley. I'm also on Twitter at Ashley. That's DrJSASHLEY. I'm also on LinkedIn at Dr. Jacqueline Ashley. And my company is worklifehealth.design, exactly like that.
Perfect. So I'll make sure that we put those links in the description of the video so people can really find you and gain more insight on what do I need to put in to be able to deliver that mission that I have, that the success that I want, but the accomplishment and the difference I want to make. So make sure we put those. Jacqueline, a huge, huge thank you.
Thank you as well. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to have been with you today.
Perfect. See you soon. I hope you like this episode. I have to say, recently, it's been maybe a few months, a question that I often ask myself is, what do I need right now? What would make me feel good right now? And yes, sometimes it's going to the spa for the day. And sometimes it's just grabbing a cup of tea and reading a book in the morning before I start meetings and whatnot. Sometimes it can be go for a walk around the block. No matter what it is, the goal of the talk that I had with Dr. Ashley was to be able to, how do we fill the cup, our energetic cup? Because we can't give what we don't have. And that's really the point that I wanted to bring today. And really my intention behind this interview is, what are the different ways that we can fill the cup so we can lead the big mission that we have? And once we understand what are the different ingredients that we need to consider and that we want to consider, and we actually do it and we replenish our energetic cup, that's when we see that so much more is possible. So thank you for being here week after week, and I will see you next Tuesday.